Thank you, Dr. Boehle, and thank you to Professor Karam and Dr. Sarzan. What a rich and powerful and challenging framework you have given all of us now to apply in the real world that we live in and struggle in often, but finding our scientific and faithful way with the power of forgiveness. I must ask, as I introduce my very distinguished fellow panelists, I must ask your forgiveness if I mispronounce your name. Please, a panel on forgiveness. I mean, goodness, feels like an automatic, but it isn't. So let me just, you've heard a little bit of background about each of the places that our panelists live and work in, but let me just make sure you have a few more of their biographical details. So first, Miss Ligia Matamoros, who is the Latin American youth pastor for the Latin American Catholic Episcopal Council. Grandfather Dominique Rankin was the former Grand Chief of the Algonquin Nation. Imam Dr. ABD Raimi Chitou is the Imam of the Central Mosque Zone de Ambassades, Cotonou, and member of the Religions for Peace Benin and African Forum of Muslim Council. Dr. Sadhvi Bhagwati and Saraswati is the co-president of Religions for Peace and Secretary General, Global Interfaith Wash Alliance, and President, Divine Shakti Foundation. My name is Rabbi Rick Jacobs. I'm the president of the Union for Reform Judaism here in North America, and I'm honored to be a part of this conversation. Let me belabor the obvious for one sentence. It seems obvious that we are living in a most unforgiving time. As individuals and as societies, forgiveness is too often relegated to those very righteous among us. But as we just learned, the science of the practice of forgiveness can change our lives for the better. It can heal the brokenness in our world. As I think every faith leader knows, to forgive is to be liberated from the inner anger and from that quest for vengeance that can consume and embitter our lives. In the Jewish tradition, we often focus on how do we earn forgiveness, and not how do we grant it. And the hard, backbreaking work of earning forgiveness after having done something that has caused harm, either personal harm or a collective harm. But we also know in the Jewish tradition, the practice of forgiveness, to be able to extend that almost divine forgiveness to others. Honestly, it is a gift to those who receive it, but it's a gift to ourselves because it frees us, allows us to live in a more whole way, and allows our world to function. As a reminder, as we turn now to our panelists, first, if you have a question, there will be a question and answer session at the end of this panel. So please continue. I've seen wonderful questions already submitted. Add those questions, if you can, in the Q&A function that you can see in the toolbar. So let me begin by asking each of our panelists to very briefly, because we have a very short amount of time and we have an enormous and powerful subject to explore. So let me ask each of our panelists to briefly explain what forgiveness looks like in your religious context, and if there are any tools that you use when providing forgiveness counsel. Let's begin with you, Ligia, please.
Buenos días.
Very good morning to you. Well, forgiveness is central to love. I work with young people in Latin America and the Caribbean, and from our point of view, forgiveness is a duty, it's an obligation, and it's represented by the cross, this experience of deep love that leads to sacrifice. And we know that at any time we can receive God's pardon and forgiveness. And this experience of love is something that we can also experience with the people who are around us. For us, every time we pray, we say the Our Father, who art in heaven, we ask him to forgive our trespasses as we forgive others who trespass against us. And as I said, this is our experience of love that has to be translated into an experience of loving others, loving the people around us. This is something that is necessary. When you have to ask for forgiveness or for one forgives, you have to take an extra step. And this is what we're trying to do in situations where forgiveness is sorely needed. In these situations, you have to take an extra step and love even more.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Let's turn now to Grandfather Rankin. Please, if you would share from your tradition.
Thank you to all who have organized this conference, and I'm very honored to participate. I am one of 150,000 children who were removed from their parents. I'm one of the survivors, and in one word, forgiveness and our concept of forgiveness is really critical and key. We are living every day with the need to seek peace in the whole world. And this peace is conditional. We were uprooted from our parents, and then we had to ask ourselves a question: who are we? Who am I? What is my culture? What is my philosophy? Everything was robbed from us. But the word forgiveness, I don't really understand when we should use the word forgiveness. For us, it is acceptance, to accept. To accept is something that we do continually, and then forgiveness is something towards a person who has done something towards me, whether it's an evil. And that's how we need to understand the word forgiveness. Does it mean accepting everything in the depth of my being and accept what happened and pray for the strength to forgive? We need to accept and then forgive. This is something that reaches every single generation, has to arrive at forgiveness and to understand and forgive what has taken place. The way that we work is to be grateful for our tradition, be grateful for reconciliation, and that reconciliation allows us to re-find who we are and to be reconnected. At one time I was uprooted, but now I am returning to who I am in the forest, with animals, with the birds, with nature. That is what gives me my peace, internal peace. And even though my parents have left and joined the world of the spirit, I continue to follow in their footsteps where they were before, and to continue to walk in the path of my ancestors. So for me, I need to live in truth. If there's no truth, there will never be reconciliation or forgiveness for me. So I need the truth to be put in the light. And I need to share with others and to share the truth. And I'm grateful to this organization, Religions for Peace, for bringing us together to be able to give the word on forgiveness and the importance of forgiveness. Truly, I was completely unconnected and lost. I lost myself in alcohol, and I was a lost person. I had a very difficult life, because I couldn't speak the truth. And then I understood how I need to live, because I used to see the white people as devils. And I needed to work hard. And the Catholic Church said I needed to change, but I didn't want to judge. The work that I needed to do inside myself to heal the wounds of my past and to remove this barrier in me. We work here in Canada all together. There are organizations throughout Canada to help us to live together and not to judge. And so I thank you. We need to work all together to work on forgiveness. I love you. I love you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much for organizing this time.
Powerful and inspiring words. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of all of our hearts. We turn now to Imam Chitou, if you would please share, if you can, briefly your faith tradition and as you both understand forgiveness and practice it.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here and to take part as a participant in this assembly. I am speaking from a mosque here in Cotonou in Benin. And I would like to remind you that Islam is a religion that is built on values, and forgiveness is one of our values, especially it's the forgiveness that is concerning us today. It is at the center of Islam. And if we are going to be able to cultivate pardon, we will really get ahead in this world, because forgiveness is primordial, is the first thing. It's the most important thing. The ties of brotherhood that we share depend on forgiveness. And it's what Islam teaches us, that when somebody has a problem with their brother, it's like he has frozen. It is said in the Quran 27 times that we need to forgive. And the Lord tells us in the Quran, forgive one another. In another verse, it says that the person who forgives is the person who has the character of God, and he forgives. And the person who forgives is one of the best people on the earth, and will quickly find solutions to his problems. And as I said before, forgiveness is greatly recommended in the Quran. Forgiveness, according to the Quran, is something that you can't force yourself to do, but it's something that is natural in our lives. especially the prophet calls us to control ourselves, have self-control. If we cannot self-control ourselves, we cannot live peacefully with others. So if somebody comes and asks and somebody posed a question to Muhammad and said, tell me, what is the best thing that I could do? What is the best thing that I could do? And he said simply, do not be angry, because when somebody is angry, he forgets everything and he cannot control himself and live peacefully in society. So forgiveness is important to Muslims and to all people, because if somebody does not forgive, he will not be able to live well. And Islam, the importance that Islam puts on forgiveness, Islam consecrates a whole month. The month of Ramadan is the month of forgiveness. And somebody who does not forgive during this month of Ramadan will not be accepted by the Lord. So I say we need to persevere in forgiveness as a strength to break all barriers, because with forgiveness, we can work towards reconciliation. According to the Quran, good actions are not do not resemble bad actions, and good actions overcome evil by good acts. I will stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Literally, we have a lifetime to absorb all of these powerful and beautiful teachings and expressions in lived reality. Our last panelist, please, we would be so honored, Dr. Bhagavati Sarasvati, if you would share from your tradition. And with this, we'll probably have to conclude this segment, but I know we all are taking in with such appreciation. Please.
It's such a blessing and an honor to be here with you all. The Sanskrit word for forgiveness is kshama, and it's seen as a godly virtue, as all of my sisters and brothers of the other faiths have shared. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says very clearly that forgiveness comes from God. It is bestowed, given to us as a virtue by God, and that those who can forgive are the godly ones. And so we are encouraged over and over again to become godly and to realize that godly nature within ourselves. There's so many stories in our scriptures and our epics of the sages and the saints and the rishis and even the divine incarnations on earth, showing this powerful forgiveness to those who have even wronged them so deeply and so severely. As far as the tools that I use in forgiveness counsel, well, I wanted first just to mention that this concept of forgiveness and letting go is something that I speak about quite literally every day, both in public discourse and in private counsel, because while I don't argue with the science that it may not necessarily be the most physically evolutionarily advantageous, it is most definitely not only spiritually advantageous, but I would say spiritually critical from a theological perspective, a psychological perspective, a scientific perspective, and for me, a really deeply personal perspective. Forgiveness is really the pillar of which our deep and powerful and expansive spiritual health comes. So with that, there's three quick tools that I use, or the tools aren't quick, but I'll share them quickly. The first is stories from our scriptures of really powerful stories of forgiveness. So, for example, in the Ramayana, Lord Ram, who is this divine incarnation, forgives his stepmother who had essentially banished him to the forest for 14 years due to absolutely no fault of his own. And when he returns from the forest, she's very afraid that he's going to be really angry. But even before going to see his own mother, he goes to her with love and with forgiveness. And giving that and so many other of these stories really, really inspires people. But also, along with that, a clear emphasis that forgiveness does not mean that what the person did is okay. Forgiveness does not mean we are condoning. It means simply that we deserve to be free. That regardless of what someone did to us, in their ignorance, because in Hinduism we focus on ignorance, not evil. Ignorance, in their ego, in their lust, in their greed, in their confusion, whatever they have done to us, I still deserve to be free. And we cannot be free until we forgive. Moksha, or ultimate freedom, liberation, is considered the highest goal of a Hindu's life. And forgiveness is the essential, non-negotiable pillar of that, because if we don't forgive, we're stuck in the past. We're stuck in the karmic drama of what happened, and we're not actually able to be free. Along with that comes an emphasis, though, that we are not the karmic police, that whatever people have done, whatever seeds they have planted, those seeds are going to sprout and blossom in that person's life in whatever way it may be. But that's not our responsibility. Our only responsibility is to our karma. And our own responsibility is to let go and to be free. And lastly, my personal story is a tool that I've had the blessing of using a lot recently. I suffered from great trauma and pain, abuse in my early childhood, and the ramifications of that stayed with me very, very deeply through adolescence, through my early adulthood. And when I came to India at the age of 25 with a backpack on what I thought would be a short adventure trip, a semester off of my PhD program, I was guided and instructed by one of the most renowned spiritual leaders here to stand in the river Ganga, the Ganges River, and to offer the pain, offer the anger, offer the story. And as much as my Stanford graduate, PhD, academic brain thought there is absolutely no way that this is going to work, rivers don't sweep away pain and depression and addiction and abuse. To make a very long, beautiful story very short, it did actually work. And I've had the blessing of being able to share that with people, to help them understand that I know pain, I know trauma, I know suffering, I know struggle, and I also know freedom and joy and peace. And the only reason that I know freedom, joy, and peace is because I was able to forgive and let go. And to be able to share that, I just came out with my memoir last year, which after 25 years of being in India was the first time that I had shared that story of my own struggle and abuse and pain. And it's been such a powerful, powerful tool and opportunity to help inspire others, to show them that if I can do this, so can they.
Thank you so very much. And I apologize. I beg your forgiveness. These are incredibly wise teachers for us, and there's so much more to learn. We'd like to actually turn, if we can, to some of the questions that have been already posed. Very beautiful, challenging questions to take our faith traditions and our personal stories and think about some of the global application to a world where forgiveness is a dominant and daily practice.